Hello everybody, welcome to Roma Theory. I hope you all had an incredible weekend with your families and friends. I hope you all had an incredible Sunday. As today, we're back speaking about a player which we were interested in. There were rumors, and now apparently Roma have officially opened talks with Eintracht Frankfurt to try and sign one of their big priorities. It's been one of our priorities since we won the Conference League, to be honest with you, just to solidify that defense, which is definitely an objective. I don't think it is our primary objective. People will disagree, people will agree. I do think we need to maybe prioritize our midfielder first, but NDICKA is would be a massive addition. And in fact, I'm actually gonna start this live stream by reading a few tweets about this situation. But obviously, if you haven't already, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to smash that like button down below. Let's try and get as many likes as possible before the video ends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now, the first tweet which I'll read comes from a source, an Italian source, which is basically, it's called calciomercato.com. It's a source where many different journalists reports what they know. So it's not one single journalist, it's kind of a platform. Let's call it a platform where journalists, well-known journalists too, add what they know about the transfer market. And according to calciomercato.com, Roma have entered talks with the German club, having already inquired about NDICKA earlier this summer. So it's been one of our priorities for quite a long while, and apparently lately Roma are trying to accelerate this deal by starting talks as soon as possible. And then there was another tweet, which I have to find, which basically says how Roma are leading the race right now. However, it would be wrong for us to think that we're the only team interested in NDICKA, because we aren't. Now, we've got two clubs which are interested in NDICKA too. We've got actually three. We've got one from the Serie A, adding on to the list, and two from the Premier League. And these are Juventus, Tottenham and Newcastle. And this is why we are seeing Roma in pole position right now. This is why we're seeing Roma leading the race right now, because Roma want to try and accelerate as many things as possible. They know that if negotiations start, and obviously negotiations go on and just don't stop, then Roma does know that if you've got the likes of Newcastle and Tottenham, then as much as it is great, you can't go very far when it comes to competing with these clubs. So it's important for us to accelerate this. Now, as things stand at time of speaking, Roma are leading this race, and this is being reported by a lot of sources. Roma are the favorites in signing NDICKA this summer. This January. But it would be wrong to think that we're the only ones interested in NDICKA, because there's a lot of competition for a player that Eintracht Frankfurt have set a price tag for him to let go in January, and that price tag is 10 million. That's what you call a bargain. 10 million to sign a player who didn't drag the team, but who was the main defender in a team which out of nowhere won the Europa League last season, is one of the best bargains in in the history of football. Why is it 10 million? 10 million it is because he is about to end his contract with Eintracht Frankfurt. His contract ends this summer. Obviously, though, if we want to sign him in January, he's still technically an Eintracht Frankfurt player. That is why we would need to pay Eintracht Frankfurt. But 10 million is absolutely nothing. And in fact, many sources are also saying that 10 million could drop drastically. That 10 million could drop drastically depending on how NDICKA, just the vibes around NDICKA's contract. Now, I think it's important to see where Eintracht Frankfurt lay in the league right now. Let's have a look at the Bundesliga, because obviously Eintracht Frankfurt are fourth. They are in Champions League spot. So I think NDICKA could have two completely mixed reactions to this. He could go, because he's already said a couple of months ago how his priority is not to renew his contract. He wants a new experience, especially after having won the Europa League with Eintracht Frankfurt beating Glasgow Rangers. He wants a new experience. He managed to achieve something big with the club. He wants a new air, so he did not sign the new contract. However, will he want to leave the team in January or help the team achieve its objectives to the summer and then leave? That is the only thing which could be argued around. So if we want to sign NDICKA first in January, which is obviously accelerating a lot of teams, accelerating in compared to Newcastle, Tottenham, teams where we don't have the likes to compete with, then I think we have to go for it. Just give them 10 million, maybe, negotiate it, try to drop it down even more, exploiting his priority. And I think we should get him in January. We should get him in January because I think he's solid. And I think he brings to the team that Europa League experience. Now, bear in mind, we're still in the Europa League and we're playing Salzburg in February. We do need experience. Now, we did see all of the group stage matches and it wasn't the best of group stages. Our adventure in the Europa League got basically determined by the home game against Ludogorets, because the first game against Ludogorets we didn't play well. The two games against Betis we didn't play well. And the away game at Helsinki, we risked a lot with that disallowed banger of a goal from Helsinki. So that clearly is a message that this team needs Europa League experience. Accumulating on the Conference League experience and the Conference League ceremony and just the Conference League achievements that they achieved last season. It's important. It's always, I think, a process of stacking on experience. Because especially another thing which we mentioned yesterday is that the more players we get for a low budget, 10 million for me is a massively low budget. 10 million might sound like a lot. It's absolutely nothing, especially when you look at the player we're speaking about. He's a Europa League winner. Now I know he's not, prime Sergio Ramos, but he won Europa League. 10 million for a European champion is absolutely nothing. So if we get him in January for 10 million and manage to get a few other players, as much as we need to get other players, if we can try and get as many players as possible by not spending drastic amounts of money, our squad depth again massively improves. And look at the calendar starting from the January the 4th when we're back playing. It's a fit and full calendar. Players are gonna get tired, especially after the World Cup. Now, I've said this many times, you're lucky because not many other players are in Qatar. But just, it's gonna be knackering. The more players we have, the more rotations there will be. And trust me, we will need rotations starting from January. So that's definitely something to say. Now, speaking of the defense, and let's say we buy NDICKA. Let's say that these sources saying that we're leading the race to sign NDICKA. We've opened talks and negotiations with Eintracht Frankfurt to try and understand the situation, to try and understand if it is possible to lower the 10 million price tag down even more, to save some money by obviously exploiting NDICKA's not wanting to renew his contract with Eintracht. It's definitely a step. It's definitely a step forward because this has now turned from a rumor into a proper sit down at the table conference with Eintracht Frankfurt and Thiago Pinto. And there are roots to this. Something could come out of this talk. The thing is, and the question which I'll try and answer in this live stream is, if NDICKA comes, does he start and who would he replace? He definitely starts, in my opinion. But the tough question is, who gets out? Because, you look at the team, you get, NDICKA is in. I'm definitely going to put Mancini out. And I agree. Out of the three defenders right now, I would definitely put Mancini out to put NDICKA in. But are we really sure Jose will put Mancini out? I think Jose has an obsession with Mancini just like he has with Cristante. And that could lead me on to say that I would really not be surprised if Ibanez is the one to get cut out. And again, Mourinho also has an obsession with Ibanez. And I think Ibanez is great. I have an obsession with Ibanez as well. I think Ibanez has grown so much. And obviously you can't put Smalling out. Obviously, yes, NDICKA will replace Smalling in some games, just to link with what we said when it comes to rotations. Smalling has played every single game up to now, and I don't think he himself knows how this is possible. NDICKA will definitely give Smalling some rotations. I will not put that in any doubt. But the big question is, if we buy NDICKA, we're definitely going to start him to improve the defence. A defence which, especially in these last games, has been deconcentrated and has conceded far too many goals. So, I don't know. It is easy to say Mancini is the one to get cut out of the defence if NDICKA comes. It's harder to actually see it happen, because I think Jose has an obsession with Mancini. I just think Mourinho loves Mancini's personality. That being of a bastard player, that being harsh, that committing foul player, I think that's what Jose likes. So I don't know. It's not my job to do it. It's Jose's job to decide who gets out, who gets in to take NDICKA's position. But obviously, one thing which I will say, and I'm basically almost convinced this will happen if NDICKA comes, is that Kumbulla will leave 100%, because then, I mean, another option could be starting with all four of them. Now, that would undermine every single rule of being balanced, because if you're starting with four centre-backs, then that is very unbalanced. Now, we already have scoring problems. We do not want to start with yet another defender. I'd rather NDICKA replaces a defender than start with the three defenders, because if you put another centre-back in, then we're really not going to score any goals, because the balance shifts too much on the defense. It's definitely going to be a hard job, but I think out of somewhere, if NDICKA comes, as much as any other defender who comes, if it will be NDICKA, if it won't be NDICKA, I think Kumbulla is the one to leave. And that means that whoever gets replaced by NDICKA could take Kumbulla's position, which is not something great, because Kumbulla has barely ever played this season and last season too. But Kumbulla's that breather type of a player who gives a breather to a lot of these players, even though he's very injury prone. But I think Kumbulla will leave 100%. Answering some questions in the chat. Would we need to sell Kumbulla to get him? I don't think we need to, but I think we will. Just because I don't think we need him. We really don't need him. We don't need four centre-backs plus Kumbulla. We could easily live life with three centre-backs plus NDICKA without Kumbulla. So, I know clubs are interested in him. I know some lower Serie A teams are interested in him. And, he himself is coming from a friendly match against Italy where his own manager, the Albanian national coach, has said, hopefully Roma loan him out or sell him, because from what I'm hearing, Kumbulla wants to play more games, wants to have more game time in his legs. And I think the thing with Kumbulla is he could have had an exponential growth like Ibanez has had, but I just think Kumbulla is very inconsistent. It's too inconsistent. And last season's performances really explain this. You had Kumbulla in some games who turned into a great defender, solid defender. And you had Kumbulla in some games like the Bodo Glimt game where he just literally, as I said in that live watch along, I still remember this, was slower than an elephant carrying a fridge on its back. So, I don't know about Kumbulla, but I do think he will leave. If any defender comes in, I think he will be the one to leave. So yeah, I mean, I think we really need NDICKA, especially because I don't know why, but and this is something which I've noticed in these last games, not from the very start of the season. From these last games, I've noticed a significant thing, which is every time our opponents cross the ball in or kind of infiltrate in the box, our defense looks so like unprepared and so like unphysical, if you see what I mean, in compared to our opponents. And I don't know if it's just the latest period, which was a terrible period, a bad period, which needs to get cancelled out of our mindset very, very, very easily. But I just don't know. And I think we need someone who's big to put next to Smalling, someone to guide the defence next to Smalling, someone who's good at set pieces, someone who's good at clearing the ball away, something which you look at Ibanez's situation at the derby and you definitely, with hindsight, wanted Ibanez to clear that ball. Someone just with good balance on his feet, and especially someone who's left-footed. This has been Mourinho's priority since, this summer? Asking for a left-footed centre-back. He's left-footed. He's been a priority since this summer. It could be the time to give Jose his wanted defensive gift, to put under the Christmas tree. I think we've opened talks apparently, so I'll definitely update you if anything happens. I think we really need to try and get him in January, because if we don't get him in January, we just can't compete with other teams which are interested in him. I think it's all about accelerating, trying to get him as fast as possible, trying to steal him away from teams like Newcastle, Tottenham, Juventus. I think it's going to be a matter of doing that. So yeah, we talked about NDICKA today. We've got another fresh week starting tomorrow. God knows what will come over the course of this week. Maybe some significant transfer news, and obviously hopefully some significant World Cup games as well. Hopefully Cristiano wins tomorrow. Right, let me read some comments. Is NDICKA DM or a centre-back? He's a centre-back. I believe he can also play DM though. That's actually a good point. I believe he's a bit versatile too, but he is a centre-back. Hopefully Mourinho talks to NDICKA and convinces him with the project. Absolutely. Plus, apparently we'll be renegotiating Gini. Good news, that is. Every time Mourinho takes out the defender, he takes out Mancini, so he'd probably get the bench if NDICKA came. Yeah, and I mean, the only reason why he gets Mancini off is because he's too aggressive. But still, I think Mourinho loves how Mancini plays. If Mancini can just limit his aggression a bit more, I think Mourinho would love him even more. I'm convinced that Jose has an obsession with him, just like he has with many other players. So I don't know if it'll be that easy for Jose to decide who gets out for a new defender, if it will be NDICKA in this case to come in. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, I invite you to smash the like button down below. Please do it if you haven't already, and also subscribe to the channel. It's free, no cost whatsoever. If it's the first time seeing my face on your screen, all you have to do, if you're interested in Roma, if you're interested in this club, is smash the red button down below, and it supports me a lot. We're just trying to get 6,000 subscribers as fast as possible. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon tomorrow with a fresh new week ahead. Simon out.